Now, the Epilepsy Society is calling on the Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, to act to prevent more avoidable deaths from the condition. The charity says 4 in 10 deaths from epilepsy are preventable, but better care, treatment and services are urgently needed. Well, let's talk to Hollie Cradduck now, whose niece died from sudden, unexpected death in epilepsy, and that led to you becoming quite involved in raising money for epilepsy charities and all the rest of it. Tell us a bit about your niece, first of all.
Rosie was 19 years old when she passed away. At the time, I was actually doing an Ironman, which is an endurance triathlon. Rosie had before this a handful of nocturnal seizures that we were told by the doctor and the GPs that were probably just night tremors, so from anxiety. She only really had them at home, like away from home, so we considered it was just something that she had, anxiety away from home. It was only when she had one in the June of 2013 at home that we thought this is something that we need to really look into. We started that process, and it was then considered that this was something maybe we should look into, like epilepsy. And then it was we were waiting for an appointment to see the neurological consultant. That's when she had a seizure.
Now, this is called SUDEP, is that
yes.
right?
Sudden unexpected death in epilepsy.
Right, and this approach now to the Health Secretary is because they're saying that 4 out of 10 deaths might be preventable. What I understand from looking into it is that the diagnosis is the bit that's problematic. It seems that a lot of patients who are suffering from or have an epileptic condition that they're living with are not being diagnosed as such. Has that been your experience?
No. Yeah, I mean, Rosie was never diagnosed with epilepsy, but there are a lot of cases who have got epilepsy, and the word SUDEP isn't even mentioned. And I know for sure if we were told at the beginning, even of June, if not before that, you would be told we would go straight private and you'd get this looked into immediately. But because there was no mention of it being life-threatening or that we were at risk or Rosie was at risk, then you just don't, you think, you trust the GP that everything's fine.
So if anyone's diagnosed with epilepsy, do they have this risk of dying from a seizure, or are some conditions different to others?
Potentially, yes, because there's 1,200 deaths a year due to epilepsy, and at the moment there's 600,000 people with epilepsy in the UK. 87 people are actually newly diagnosed every day. So of those, that's potentially at 42% of those deaths are preventable, and of those 1,200, over half of them are directly attributed to SUDEP. So it's something that needs to be talked about and needs to be put forward.
So if that went up to the Health Secretary and the Health Secretary looked through all the material he was given and said, yes, we need to take this seriously, what sort of action would you like to see being
I think more awareness and people talking about it, especially people with epilepsy and who've had nocturnal seizures, that there's people are talking about it and there's monitoring is happening. And SUDEP Action have actually, they've helped me personally, through their counselling service, but they do a lot of research into it, and recently they've actually released this application you can get for iPhones and any device called EpsMon. And that way, when you look at it, you can actually assess, self-assess yourself and when you're at risk and what triggers are and when you should go to the doctor. And as well as that, it can be a clinical tool for the health professionals to then assess you and your epilepsy and what they should do with it, whether it's different medication or...
All right, and very briefly, you've been campaigning since Rosie died. What's your next venture coming up?
My next one is Ironman Barcelona. I did the World Championship. I got there in her memory. It was my promise to get there for her, because Rosie was very philosophical about shooting for the moon and for your dreams. And that's what I did. I've had a bit of a break. I actually went for my first 100k bike ride today, and that hurt. But
well done for getting here
Ironman Barcelona is on October, and that's a flat course, which would be amazing. So that's
well, good luck with that, Hollie. Thanks very much for coming in. Hollie Cradduck there. Voters have been to the polls in Germany in what is widely seen